Welcome back to Campfire Guide to Parenting. I'm Mike McDonald, president of Kid Venture Camps, and today we're talking about something I think a lot of parents quietly worry about. What happens when your child just isn't connecting at school? Not failing and not giving up, just not clicking. And more importantly, how do we help kids actually enjoy learning again, even when it's hard? So today I'm joined by Kristen Morrison. She's an educational consultant and academic therapist with over 30 years of experience working with kids and families. She's helped students across all kinds of learning challenges. But what I love about her approach is that it really centers around the whole child and not just grades or performance. Kristen, I'm so glad to have you here today. Thanks so much for being a part of this.
Thank you for having me.
How are you doing?
I'm great.
Crazy day? No?
Crazy day. This is a busy season.
What makes this a busy season for you?
Spring is always a busy season for teachers. You're 8 weeks away until the end of the school year. Admissions season has just concluded and parent-teacher conferences are gearing up. So it's a busy time.
Well, thank you for carving out time. I know it's valuable, not only for me, but maybe hopefully more importantly for our families who watch this episode. So thank you so much. All right. So before we get started, I have to say, Kristen sent over a title idea for this episode, and I'm going to try to read it without messing it up. Everybody, okay? Here it is. Raising kids who love to learn, even when it's hard, by helping kids discover their strengths so they can be harnessed for success in and out of school. That's a lot of title there. Can you talk to us about what that means for you?
I had a hard time narrowing it down because so many thoughts come to my mind, but I think what kids need more than anything in this day and age is to know themselves and to know their strengths and to know truly who they are in their efforts to navigate their individual school environment. And I think that there's a lot of focus on what's wrong with kids and what students may be lacking, and not enough focus on what students bring to the table, bring to their desk every morning, or bring to the classroom. And that may not always be book smarts. It may not always be athleticism. It may not always be, a creative talent. And we've got to do a better job of helping kids find themselves. Self-actualization can actually start at a really young age if parents and teachers and educators and all of us who work with kids really understand that. That knowledge is power.
Yeah, I guess when you tell me that, I mean, it hits me like a weight, because I see that too as well. And you've worked with kids, in families for decades now. What do you think is driving that right now then?
I think right now our kids are more stressed out than ever. I'm the mother of 4 kids, and they're all in college or above and on their way to adulthood. And I've had many a conversation with them over the past couple of years when they have said, "Come, Mom, I wish we had grown up in the 80s. The 80s seemed so fun. The 70s felt so happy," And you look back and at one time we were having this big family discussion in the car, and I said, "Why do you think that?" She goes, "I don't know. Everybody just seems like really happy at that time. Music was happy, cool things were happening in the world." And it's made me think a lot that in this day and age, kids have to go to school with a certain sense of fear that's subsided. They're practicing for not just hurricane and tornado drills, they're practicing for intruder drills.
Yeah.
They know the drills more than I do when I'm on their campuses. The news is bombarding them with fear and anxiety and uncertainty about their future, not just in terms of safety, but also in terms of AI moving into the world. And is education going to really be important? Does a kid really need to go to college in order to make it in this world? Is their job going to be replaced by, a computer? If I look back, and I'm sure you could too, because we're from the same era, um, if you think about the bad things that happened in the world during our time, I can think of uh, Ronald Reagan, who got shot,
Yeah.
but he lived.
Yeah.
Um, I can think of the space shuttle that
Yeah.
crashed.
Yeah.
Um, and that's about it.
Yeah. I
And
was
if
thinking
you
about,
you think today, I mean,
no,
it's scary.
it is scary, and you're absolutely right. Now, had they seen a picture of me in the '80s with my mullet, they may have had a different impression of the '80s. Okay, let's just be frank about that. Okay, a lot of good was going on there. Hairstyles was not one of those,
Yeah,
probably.
I had some good
No,
bangs
but
working at that
seriously, no,
time.
you're right. I mean, I look back too, like what happened when we were kids. I mean, what
Yeah.
caused stress and consternation for us are so much different than they are today, and that saddens me, right? I mean, that's so heavy that our kids have to think about that, right?
Yeah.
The other piece of that too is when we screwed up in the '80s or we did something dumb, it wasn't captured on social media and sent out
Totally.
and broadcasted to everybody the next day or instantly for that matter too.
Yeah.
So okay, and I don't want to make this a whole thing about the '80s versus the 2020s, right? But are you seeing this level of stress and anxiety across all ages, or is it certain groups that you work with that you're seeing this more so than others?
I see an increase in anxiety among all ages, much younger than I ever used to. But I think the young middle schooler is probably my biggest concern.
Right.
The sixth, seventh, even eighth grader
Yeah.
who is riddled with so much anxiety that they can't even go to school.
Don't you think that the baseline for just being in middle school as it is without all the stress and everything, it's such an awkward period of time anyway. I mean,
Oh, yeah,
if there was any period of time I would not want to go back and repeat, it's probably sixth and seventh grade.
totally. I tell my students all the time, if you paid me $10 million to go back to seventh grade, I'd say keep your money. It's not
Oh,
worth
totally true.
it. Oh, okay.
Okay. So I know you work with a lot of parents, Kristen, right?
Mhm.
When a parent says, my kid just isn't getting it, what do you think is usually happening when that parent sort of asks that question?
You know, when a parent calls me with that kind of concern, I usually stop and take some time to really ask some wide and narrow questions to find out, what does not getting it really mean? What does
Mm,
school struggle really mean to that particular parent?
yeah.
Because, the other thing that I find that's happening in our world right now is parents are also living in fear.
Yeah.
They're living in fear that they're not doing enough to help their child be successful, or the outside influences are so great that they can't fight those off.
Right.
And they have very oftentimes a preconceived idea of who their child is and what they want their child to be.
Right.
So when a child's struggling in school, does that mean their grades are bad? And do bad grades for that particular family mean B's?
Yeah.
Does it mean C's? Does it mean D's? What is this meaning? Is a child struggling so much with school that they're not able to get out of bed in the morning and go
Yeah.
to school? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And I get all kinds of different answers.
Well, that's a complex issue, right? Because
Yeah.
I mean, we started out this discussion talking about a child as if they operate in a vacuum and they have their own stresses and anxieties. But you probably learn pretty quickly that a lot of the situation going on with that child or that anxiety stress might be harnessed because of their parents' pressure that they're placing on them per se, right?
Yeah.
And is that difficult to have that discussion with that parent? Can you, when you're seeing that and you're witnessing that when you're working with families and kids, is that something that you bring up to the parent? Is that an awkward and hard situation to address with them?
It is. It
Yeah.
is. A lot of times I ask them to really examine what it feels like to be in their home after school. Does it feel like there's a cloud of stress that's just hovering?
Mm,
Or does it feel like a child has a chance to actually say to their mom or their dad, I had a really crappy day at school today,
Yeah.
and tell them about what happened at recess just as much as what happened with their spelling test.
Right.
Um, there's a lot of kids that don't feel like they can open up to their parents.
Yeah.
And not just about school, about the other things that kids are balancing with school. Maybe it's social issues. Maybe it's too many sports. You know, I've
Yeah.
got a lot of students that play a lot of sports really intensely.
Yeah.
And the reality is that only a few of them maybe will make it to college athletics, you know, but convincing their parents of that is quite
Right.
different. And if
Totally.
you're balancing 5 nights of baseball at 3 or 4 hours a night and a homework load, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. This happened with my own child, with Michael Bennett. And I know you know Michael, you've worked with him before in the past, right? Um, about a year and a half ago, he was in fifth grade, and he had two sports and something else going. And I remember him coming to Peggy and I and saying, "I'm doing too much."
Uh-huh.
It was like, and the way he said it was just like, okay, and I think from a parent's perspective, we want our kids to be involved, and we want them, to be on a team and doing this. But sometimes we just got to stop and listen to that fifth grader or sixth grader and understand that what they're telling us is really serious and really important. We backed off of that. And now each semester, I want him to involved in something. He's in a play right now, but he's involved in no other sports. Would I
Yeah.
like for him to be involved in other sports? Probably so. But is that the best thing for him to be doing right now? No.
Yeah.
And I think it's hard for a parent, because I think internally, I think we think we're doing the right thing by signing him up for this and doing him for this. But man, overscheduling our kids is causing them a lot of undue stress, and I know you
Yeah.
know that. And I'm preaching to the choir here, but
Mm,
we see a lot of that too at camp here
yeah.
at Kid Venture
I
too,
bet.
and it's tough. You're walking this line of having your kid involved and having an experiential type of lifestyle, but also just having time to do nothing too as well.
Yeah. And I think part of what's driving that also, in addition to just wanting your child to have a lot of success, a lot of opportunities, and a lot of experiences, which is, a valid thing
Yeah,
for us to want for our children.
yeah,
Parents also have this fear of downtime, because downtime means screen time
yeah,
for
yeah,
many, many kids.
yeah, for
Gone
sure.
are the days when back in the 80s, we could just run out in the morning and say, "Bye, mom, see you at dinner."
Yeah,
We don't
yeah,
we don't do that with our kids anymore. Kids can't run and play in the neighborhood. On
yeah,
the weekends, they're scheduled with sports and,
yeah.
activities and so
Yeah,
forth.
I
So,
you bring up a really good topic, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it's something. And I wrote an article about this just like 2 days ago. It's about boredom. There's this fear of boredom,
yes.
and I will tell you that I'm a proponent of boredom, because I think out of boredom comes initiative and curiosity and trying new things. But man,
Mhm.
I feel like my kids are like, I'm bored. Like it's almost like boredom has taken on this like huge thing now with our kids. And as a parent, we're like, oh my gosh, they can't
Yeah.
be bored,
Yeah, they
right?
can't be bored. If they're bored, they're going to ask for the iPad.
That's
Quick.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
And then I look back at like family vacations, and we would sit in the car for hours because we never took a plane anywhere.
Yeah.
Driving to Wisconsin in the back of a station wagon for 9 hours uh, had to be. I mean, my kids would have like they would have gone out of their mind
Yeah, totally.
without an electronic device. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
only play license plate games for so long.
So
By the
long.
way,
That's right. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. It's so
So
true.
so I want to shift this a little bit. Okay, you talk a
Mhm.
lot about helping kids discover their strengths.
Mhm.
What does that actually look like when you're working with a child? Like, how do you figure out if a kid doesn't see it in themselves, but you see it in them? I mean, you said something really poignant a while ago when you were talking about why aren't we focusing on what kids are bringing to the table rather than what kids aren't bringing to the table? I think that's really important. Talk to me a little bit more about that. What you mean by that?
Well, I see a good number of students who have learning differences. I mean, that is my primary focus. But I see a good number of students also who are just struggling with keeping up with school.
Yeah.
And most of the time they come here thinking, my mom's sending me to a tutor.
Right.
And it has a stigma about it.
Yeah.
I must not be doing well because I'm going to a tutor.
Mm.
And so that's why I am not a tutor.
Yeah.
So I tell my students right off the bat, I am not a tutor. I am someone who is here to help you help yourself.
Yeah.
And it's a job well done when you don't need me.
Mm.
So I equate it to being sort of like a personal trainer.
Yeah.
And so I say to the child, a person goes to a personal trainer not because they don't have any muscle at all, but because they have a set of muscles that they want to learn how to train to use better. They want to learn how to strengthen themselves so that they can perform better, whether it be in a sport or whether it be just in day-to-day function. And that's what I am. I'm going to take your strengths and I'm going to help you find them and I'm going to help you strengthen them. And then we'll use those strengths to help figure out what to do about the things that are hard.
Yeah. And I think you bring, I love how you say you're not a tutor, right?
It bothers me.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, do kids, when kids come to you for the first time, are they pushing back usually?
Sometimes they
Yeah.
come in real quiet, their moms kind of push them into the office usually, usually by the end of the hour, they leave with a smile on their face and their mom is, so relieved. But you can always tell there's been some kind of struggle in the car. Some kind of deal has been made. After you go visit Kristen, we'll get ice cream or,
might involve ice cream or $10 bill.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh my gosh. So when the light comes on, right, and the kid realizes what you're trying to get through to them, give us an example of that. Is there a moment like you can think of recently where you were working with a kid that maybe did not want to be there and hates school and blah, 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 where all of a sudden you change their perspective? Give us an example of that. What did that look like?
Sometimes I visit with kids in my office, and sometimes I visit with kids at their schools.
Mm.
And I have a student right now who's been my guy for a while, and he's really great kid, super smart, great athlete, a third grader. So he's young.
Yeah.
But he struggles desperately with being able to stay focused in class.
Yeah.
And remember his homework and remember to write his homework down in a planner. And, he might remember the planner but forget the book or whatever it is. And usually when he comes back the next day and he doesn't have his homework, then it usually, results in some kind of behavioral issue that then gets him in trouble.
Yeah.
He has a constant need for speed. He's got to be the fastest one to finish, regardless of whether it's right or wrong. He's going to be the first one to turn in his test,
Yeah.
And so we've been struggling a lot. And we've been trying out different strategies and different habits to put in place at school and at home. And a lot of times he's been reluctant to come out of his classroom to work with me when I come to school.
Yeah.
But I told him last week, I said, you've got all the tools you need. You know how to use them. You just got to decide that you're going to use them. And I said, and remember what I've said to you so many times before, it's a job well done when you don't need me anymore. So advocate for yourself, take responsibility, take ownership for yourself so you don't have to have your mom nagging you when you get home, because that is a drag.
Totally.
So yesterday, I came all the way to his school for our regular appointment. I came to the door, and he quietly got up out of his desk, and he came over to the door, and he goes, Miss Morrison, today I would really like to stay in class because I've remembered my homework for the past 5 days, and I've been really good. I've been really paying attention. And my teacher's super proud of me, and we're doing an activity right now that I think I can really excel at. And so I'm just wondering, is it okay if I stay in class today? And I was like,
Success.
yes. Now, this is a kid who would choose any reason to leave the class. I mean, 29 bathroom breaks in, an hour period. I mean, so the
Was
fact
that
that
just
he
was that
wanted
just
to stay,
confidence that
I
he
think
got for reasons?
so.
Yeah.
I think that because he had been on the ball
Yeah.
for a few days and really put some of the things that we've been working
Yeah.
on in practice, and
Yeah.
then he was receiving that positive recognition when he got to school,
Yeah.
and then again when he got home,
Yeah.
he was feeling good. He was
He
feeling
had
good
some
about
momentum. He
himself.
had some momentum behind him, huh? He had some confidence
Yeah.
kicking
I
in.
mean, success breeds success, right?
Yes.
And all it takes is a little bit to
Right.
fuel your motivation for more.
Good for him.
Yeah. So that's just a little example, but um, I see all kinds of kids who struggle, with all kinds of different learning differences, whether it be ADHD or dyslexia or dyscalculia or, whatever it is. But I find that the ones who are able to own that in a way that it doesn't become an excuse
Yeah.
and it doesn't become a roadblock to
Yeah.
their progress,
Yeah.
but instead they learn their workarounds or they learn their new strategies and they're able to put them into practice better than their
Yeah.
neighbor in their classroom.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that really do well.
You mentioned something right there that really resonates with me, and I think it's important enough to pull out of there, and that's owning it, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And I there's no doubt in my mind I was not diagnosed with ADD or ADHD, but I feel positive that I would have been for most of my childhood. There's
Yeah,
no doubt about it.
sure.
And I think so many of us have challenges, whether they come with labels or not, you
Right.
know, that provide impediments or challenges for us to be successful in academics or in social life or whatever it is. But when you recognize that and you own that, right? If there's
Mhm.
someone near you, a parent or a friend who teaches you, you know what? This is who you are. This is how you're made. Own it. I think it gives you this opportunity to do something with it. I think the problem or the challenge for a lot of kids and adults is they never recognize it. They push it down, they ignore it, and they never really are able to address it. And I just think that you helping kids own it and recognize and say, you know what, this is part of me, this is who I am. I can either struggle with it or I can do something about it and succeed with it.
Yeah.
It's got to be
Yeah.
so powerful, like, you know what I mean?
So
Especially for
powerful.
a 30-year-old. Because if you don't learn that when you're in third grade, you don't learn that when you're 36, right?
That's right. Well, and what that does, what that self-awareness does, it leads to self-advocacy.
Right.
So we do a lot of role playing in my sessions.
Yes.
So I might role play with a student, and instead of maybe he's a kiddo who has a really hard time following a teacher's lecture. He's an older kiddo, say a middle
Yeah.
schooler, and he has a hard time following a lecture and taking notes himself, so he misses a lot of information.
Yeah.
And the teacher might walk around the room and see that he's not taking notes and get upset with him. And she doesn't understand what's really going on in his brain. But if he does, then he can advocate for himself.
Yeah.
So then I coach him to go up to the teacher after class respectfully
Right.
and don't use the label. Don't say, I have ADD or I'm
Right.
dysgraphic or
Right.
whatever it is. But instead say, I have a really hard time focusing on things that I see and hear and writing at the same time.
Yeah.
Do you think there's any chance you could give me a class set of notes that I could use and then I'll annotate from those because I really enjoy your lecture, I really enjoy your class and I want to be able to participate more.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, if you
For
have a
sure.
student that's going to go to a teacher and say something like that in
Yeah.
that way, she's
Yeah.
going to be like, "Sure, go ahead."
So impressive. If I'm a teacher and I have a student that comes in and does that to me, I'm like, yeah, we'll figure this
Yeah,
out. Right.
for sure. For
I mean, that's
sure.
such a powerful thing to be able to teach a kid to do. For some kids, it's tough just to get them to go to a restaurant and order their own meal for themselves, sitting down.
Right. That's right.
Advocating for themselves is such a powerful lesson we can teach our kids.
And
Um,
it carries them through adulthood, I mean, because
totally.
what do you have to do in college? You have to go and sit with an advisor that you've met for 2 minutes and plan your life, and that's kind of scary. Or suddenly
Right.
go from a classroom of 35 to 40 kids to 350 or 400, and you're afraid to raise your hand, or
Yeah.
you're afraid to talk to the professor or the TA after school, then that's not going to work well for you. So
Agreed.
I think that knowledge is power. I think that knowledge builds confidence, and self-confidence leads to self-advocacy and self-actualization, which then leads to success and then
Yeah.
happiness. I think as parents, we're so worried about our kids being happy,
Yeah.
and we're not always going to be happy, you
Well,
know?
I think what we need to do as parents is understand, what does happiness mean?
Exactly.
Uh,
Exactly.
and I think for some parents, happiness means doing well in school and getting all A's and being a great athlete. Is that really what happiness is at the end of the day? And if we truly want our kids to be happy,
Yeah.
what is it we're trying to push our kids to become in the process of that? Right? I think it's
Totally.
worthy of understanding, right?
It is.
Plenty of kids who are straight A students who excel, make a ton of money, who are completely unhappy,
Totally. Yeah. Totally.
you know?
Yeah.
Um, okay, I kind of want to shift gears a little bit, okay?
Okay.
By the way, you're such a wealth of information. I know a lot of parents are going to soak this up, all right?
Okay.
I want to kind of go back to the parent side of things, right, from the kid side of things. Um, if a parent is dealing with frustration around school right now,
Hmm.
where should they start? I mean, where, like, they don't know you, right? They don't have access to your coaching abilities. Um, what's one small change that they can actually make to move the needle for their own kid that's in this kind of situation?
I think the most important thing that they can do is communicate with action and with words that their child matters.
Mm,
And their child matters more than their grades, more than their, trophies,
right.
more than any accolades that any school or sport could give you.
Mm,
I also think that when a child knows that they are important and they matter to their parents beyond those things, then they feel safe.
yeah.
So they feel safe enough to come home and tell their mom they're really not doing as well as she may think that they are, or that they're struggling with something, maybe socially. And I think we want to be a safe place. We
Yeah.
want our homes to be a haven. I think that a lot of parents come to me, contact me, because that their child comes home from school and there's so much frustration and there's so much fight at the table, doing homework and balancing all the extracurriculars and all of that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
that they want help with that.
Yeah.
And really, if you think about asking that question, does my child know that he or she matters beyond grades and accolades?
Yeah.
That kind of resets your mindset for what needs to take place at school,
Yeah.
what needs to take place at home,
Yeah.
what conversations need to happen.
Yeah.
At one point, I had 4 kids, my 4 kids in 4 different schools. And logistics were really difficult,
I bet.
getting them all, everywhere.
Yeah.
And people would suggest to me, just find some carpools and let some other people,
Yeah.
drive your kids around. But I was determined to pick each and every one of them up, because I knew that time that they spent in my car from school to
Yeah.
home, and
Yeah.
living in Houston, Texas, sometimes that can be a long time.
Right.
Those
Yeah.
were the best moments that we had.
Connections. Yeah.
Hmm.
For
Yeah.
sure. You know, you said something right there that I want to parse out a little bit, okay? And you talked about focusing on them making a great grade or getting the trophy. And I think a lot of times what we miss out on doing, and this helps build confidence, instead of focusing on getting the trophy or making the grades, forget about that. Emphasize the hard work and everything that went in to get the trophy and get the great grades. We're missing 99.9% of the experience when all we do is focus on the end result, right?
Yep.
And I
Yep.
think that says something to a kid when they just hear about the trophy or they just hear about the A. Um,
Yeah.
what about the work that went into that? What about the time and the effort and the commitment? You know what I mean?
And what you learned about yourself through that struggle,
Right,
you
right.
know?
Okay, you talked about what a parent maybe should to do to move that needle a little bit. What should a parent stop doing immediately, in your opinion?
Ooh, that's a good question. Um, I think parents need to stop nagging.
Yeah,
I think we need to figure out the way to turn those concerns into a conversation. So instead of meeting your child at the door and saying, I got a call from your teacher today, and she said this, 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 what do you have to say for yourself?
yeah,
It needs to be, I heard from your teacher today and she's really concerned. And now I am too. Can you talk about it? Chances are they know exactly what the teacher was calling about,
yeah.
right? They
Right.
don't need you to list the grievances.
Yeah,
But giving them that space to have that conversation and then meeting them in that place with empathy.
yeah,
With, you know, when I was 13, it was really hard.
yeah.
And I remember being in that place that you're in right now. And
Sure.
I didn't have half of the distractions that you have because we didn't have social media and phones and blah
Yeah,
blah.
yeah,
You know, but helping them understand that you were not above it all, that
right.
you also experienced struggles.
Yeah,
I think that um, really builds strong relationships,
great.
which
That's
is what
great.
we want, you know?
Totally, totally.
Yeah.
Um, okay, there's another topic I want to kind of bring up right now to get your opinion on, please, while I have you. We're hearing more and more about homeschooling and microschooling. Are
Hmm.
you seeing that in the families that you're working with? Is that something that's coming up more so now?
I am. Um, I have always had an opportunity to homeschool, so to speak, a
Yeah,
child through our office.
yeah,
So this would be a situation where a school situation wasn't working out for a child, and so it made more sense to go ahead and pull them and give them that one-on-one attention and what they needed in
yeah.
our office environment for a while until they were ready to go back to that school or ready to go on to another school.
Okay.
But when COVID happened,
Yeah,
then the need became really great,
yeah,
right? Because then outsiders weren't allowed into schools to
mm,
do specialized interventions
yeah,
and give that kind of support. And it was difficult for kids to go much of anywhere. And learning through a screen is just, no one's ever going to convince me that that's really,
yeah,
really a good thing.
yeah,
We need that human interaction. And
yeah.
so during COVID, our little homeschool program grew into a micro school program. In the first year, we had 8 students,
Yeah.
and those 8 students were kids that actually COVID was a blessing for them. They
Yeah,
really needed to take that break to gain some ground with their skills
yeah,
and have some time to mature. And it gave them the opportunity and the excuse to leave their school and to come and do that. Well, they went back to their typical schools the next year, and the word spread about their growth and how,
mm,
how much they had changed and transformed as a student and as a person. And
yeah,
so the following year, we had double that many students.
yeah,
And that trajectory, just kept on going. And we kept
yeah,
getting more and more students. And that lasted for about 4 years. And then as concerns about COVID and germs and things like that and restrictions at school subsided, then those kids started going back to school, which is what they really needed to do.
yeah,
They needed to get back. It's just a short-term solution.
yeah,
So in the years that have followed, our numbers have been much smaller, but we still work with kids in a micro school situation,
right.
and I feel like there's a lot of misinformation out there right now about the benefits of that.
Yeah.
And I feel that there are some parents that are making those choices because they feel that it is going to be easier for the
Mm,
student, easier for their home life because there's not going to be as much battle. But I think you have to really look at those individual school programs because I have a lot of connections with some that seem real great on paper,
yeah.
but if you go and visit, those kids are on their laptops all day receiving
Yeah.
instruction from teachers in Michigan or, California, and not having much
I think we're having
human
a bit of
interaction.
a lag in the broadband.
Yeah. Oh, I am?
Yeah, I think so. Hold on a second.
Okay, hold on one
Are you
sec.
back?
I'm going to plug in. Let's see if that's better.
Okay. There we
Is
go.
that better?
Um,
Okay.
yeah. So you were saying for some of these kids that are in micro uh, school or homeschool situations, you think parents need to be very particular about where they're enrolling their child in that situation, correct?
Where they're enrolling them and why.
Yeah.
Why do
Why
you feel
why
that
why why would a parent want to enroll their child into a micro or homeschool situation? Is there a main
good
reason that you see a lot of parents want to do
Yeah,
that?
good question. Um, I think that there are a lot of kids who, especially in their middle school years, um, who miss the opportunity to have the gift of time younger. So we have a lot of I have a lot of parents that I work with in the pre-K kinder first grade range that are trying to
Yeah.
decide if their little boy or little girl who was born on the 4th of July should
Yeah.
be held back or move forward, right?
Right.
Or the little boy that just can't sit still in the circle in kindergarten and we know he's not really ready for first grade, but then, what's his choice because his birthday's in March.
Right.
Um, and that is its own conversation.
Yeah.
Then we have kids that get pushed along, and a lot of times they're in middle school and they're kind of at a state of arrested development and they're not moving along as quickly as their peers and their classmates.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
realize, I wish we had given them the gift of time. And so sometimes pulling them out of that typical school environment and letting
Yeah.
us or someone work with them one on one and really give them exactly what they need, not what the class needs, is the game changer. It
Mm,
either allows them the opportunity to repeat a grade and save face, or it allows them the opportunity to participate fully in that grade level curriculum with the right kind of support. And usually they come
yeah.
out on the other side stronger than ever.
Yeah. Okay.
But, like I said, you need to make sure that you're making that decision for the right reasons because um, when kids are involved in a micro school or a homeschool situation, you're not providing all the enriching activities that a school provides that we learn just as much from as we do from books and from lectures and lessons.
Yeah.
Kids need to be with other kids. That's how
Yeah.
you learn about
Yeah.
navigating life.
Yeah.
Um, Kids need to be in environments that have rules. We have rules in the
Yeah.
workplace, right? We have rules
Yeah.
as adults. And so, you know,
Yeah.
letting your child just freeform it with school is definitely not the
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah, and I think that's where camp comes in, really. Camp obviously is not an academically focused space, but it's focused on learning how to get together with a bunch of people uh, and make it all work, right? I mean, I think that's been the power of camp forever, right? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's those life skills, those opportunities to gain independence and confidence and trust and communication, cooperation with the people around you. Plenty of people with straight A's will go through life that have a very difficult time navigating a boardroom because they just don't have those social
Yeah.
skills, right?
Yeah.
So we have this thing that we do during this podcast. And I've done this the last 3 times, and it's called the rapid fire
Okay.
segment. And so what I'd like to do is I'm going to ask you a series of
Uh,
questions, right? And I'm going to fire them off to you. And I want you to give me really short 1 or 2 word
okay.
answers to them so that we can dive deeper into the brain of Kristen Morrison and pull out all of this great
Hey,
stuff. Okay. So are
I'm
you
with
with
you.
me?
Be
Okay,
kind.
here we go. Take a deep breath. All right. One thing parents worry about too much,
Great.
Kristen. One thing parents don't focus on enough.
Having fun.
Best way to build real confidence in a child. Biggest mistake parents make when it comes to school.
Trying to copycat what they experienced.
A small habit that makes a big difference for kids.
Human connection.
Something kids today need more of.
Human connection.
Something kids today need less of.
Pressure.
If a child is struggling, Kristen, the first move a parent should make.
Talk to the child. Really find out what they need.
And one, don't assume
Yeah,
what they need.
exactly.
Maybe too,
Listen more than
and
talk.
one, right? And one word that describes a child who's thriving.
Joy.
Works. If a parent feels like a child is struggling right now, what would you want them to hear?
It's not always going to be this hard.
If a child is saying that same thing to you, if a child is struggling, what would you say directly to that child?
It's not always going to be this hard.
All things pass.
Yeah.
What gives you the most hope when you're working with kids and parents like this today,
I
Kristen?
meet the coolest kids in this office, in their schools, out there in the world. And I think there's a lot of focus on what's wrong with this generation instead of what's right with this generation. This generation is passionate, they have strong emotions, they have strong feelings, they have strong ideas about their world and ours.
I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your experience, your perspective, your kindness, and your experience with me and all of our viewers. So for those listening, if you found this helpful, share it with another parent who might need to hear it. These are the kinds of conversations, that make a difference, right? As always, thanks for sitting around the campfire with me. It's a journey being a parent. Now, if you missed the last episode, I had on an incredible guest, Bo Byron. We talked about our elders in our society and getting information from them, leaning in on them rather than just using AI and algorithms, really the wisdom, tapping into that wisdom of our elders. It's a fantastic episode. Go back, take a look at it, and look forward to having this conversation around the campfire with you once again in the future. Take care.